Welcome back to the channel. Everyone, before we dive into today's story, I want you to do something important. Hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and join our growing community. Because what we're about to uncover is not just a royal headline or political drama. It's a mystery that pulls together power, secrets, and the haunting possibility of a prince being caught in a web spun far beyond his control. Now, let me ask you this. What happens when a man born into royalty, one second in line to the British throne, steps away from tradition and enters the world's most unforgiving spotlight, the United States immigration system? And what if, behind a polished smile and humanitarian speeches, thousands of hidden documents are being sifted through, threatening to expose truths he may have never wanted the world to see? This isn't just a story about a visa. It's a story about power, about truth, and about how even a prince cannot outrun the shadows of his past. Reports now reveal that the U.S. Department of State, America's gatekeeper for visas and international travel, has stumbled upon a staggering 1,000 documents linked to Prince Harry's immigration file. Think about that for a moment. 1,000 records. Not 20, not 50, but a mountain of paperwork so massive, so detailed, that it begs the question, why is one man's visa application buried under more scrutiny than that of entire companies or diplomatic groups? Of those documents, 217 come directly from the office of the Secretary of State, the American equivalent of Britain's powerful foreign secretary. Another 517 are tied to the Bureau of Consular Affairs, the very office responsible for deciding who gets to step foot into the United States. Add to that 271 records from the Office of the Legal Advisor, and even notes from the Deputy Secretary of State's office. Every corner of the government seems to have its fingerprints on Harry's file. But why? What could possibly be so sensitive, so explosive, that it requires this kind of attention? The answer may lie in a lawsuit that has shaken Washington. Back in January, the Heritage Foundation, a powerful right-wing think tank, launched legal action against the Department of State. Their demand? To reveal what Prince Harry truly wrote, or didn't write, on his visa application. This came after they had already sued the Department of Homeland Security, forcing the release of dozens of documents that, curiously, left one gaping hole: the actual truth about Harry's visa status. And here's where the story turns darker. The Heritage Foundation claims that Harry may have lied. Lied about one thing that the U.S. government takes deadly seriously: his history of drug use. In his own memoir, Spare, Harry confessed to experimenting with drugs, cocaine, cannabis, even psychedelics. He described moments of escape, of rebellion, of numbing the pressures of a life he never chose. But here's the problem. U.S. visa applications have one very blunt question. Have you ever used illegal drugs? For most applicants, one wrong answer, one admission of past use, can mean automatic rejection. Yet here he is, living comfortably in California, attending events, traveling freely. So, the question lingers: did he answer truthfully? Or did someone quietly look the other way? Heritage Foundation's lawyer, Samuel Dewey, didn't mince his words. The sheer volume of documents, he said, shows that Harry is being monitored pretty closely. He hinted that some of the files could even include Harry's own statements about the controversy. But not all of it will be revealed. Parts will be withheld, redacted, hidden, and the decision of what gets shown and what remains locked away may not rest with the courts alone, but with politicians who have the power to override. Which brings us to another figure looming over this storm: Donald Trump. Trump has already suggested, in his blunt and unpredictable style, that Harry's residency in the United States may not be as secure as it seems. Imagine that. A former president, and potentially a future one, openly toying with the idea of deporting a British prince. Could this really happen? Could the man who gave up royal duties, cross an ocean for love, and carve out a new identity in California, suddenly find himself forced onto a plane back to Britain? Stripped the new life he fought so hard to build? This isn't speculation pulled from tabloids. This is now a legal and political chess game. Every move, every hearing in Washington, every statement from the State Department, every filing dragged into the light by lawsuits, adds another piece to a puzzle the world is watching. And here's the strangest part. The Department of State refuses to comment. Silence, in the world of politics often speaks louder than words. If Harry's application was clean, if there was nothing unusual about it, wouldn't they simply say so? Instead, we are left with whispers, with speculation, with a gnawing suspicion that something inside those 1,000 documents is too damaging, too compromising, to reveal without a fight. But let's pause for a moment. Picture Harry not as a public figure, not as the Duke of Sussex, standing on stages, or walking hand-in-hand with Meghan under the California sun. Picture him instead in a quiet room, pen in hand, staring at the stark black-and-white questions of a U.S. visa form. The weight of truth pressing down on him. Admit too much and risk rejection. Deny too much and risk exposure later. Was this the moment when his past, those youthful nights of rebellion, those confessions written for millions to read, collided with his future? It's almost Shakespearean. A prince torn between honesty and survival. Between the past he cannot erase and the present he cannot risk losing. And so, the question lingers like smoke in the air. What's inside those files? What is the U.S. government so carefully guarding? And will the truth, when it finally emerges, reshape not just Harry's future, but the fragile relationship between the monarchy, America, and the shifting tides of power that rule them both? Because this is not just about a visa. It's about trust. It's about influence. It's about whether rules that apply to millions can bend for one man with a title. And the outcome of this battle may reveal more about the hidden alliances of politics and power than about Harry himself. But as these documents move toward a judge's table in Washington, as lawyers sharpen their arguments and politicians quietly calculate their advantage, one thing is certain. The clock is ticking, and Harry's carefully built American dream may be standing on foundations far shakier than anyone dared to imagine. Now, what happens next is where the story takes its sharpest turn. Because as the lawsuits intensify, as pressure mounts, and as whispers of deportation grow louder, we are forced to ask, could this saga end not in quiet legal resolution, but in a very public reckoning, one that the world's cameras will capture in brutal, unforgiving detail? When we left off, the question hanging in the air was simple but chilling. Could Prince Harry, son of the late Princess Diana, once celebrated as the heir to the throne, now be facing the possibility of deportation from the very country he sought refuge in? To understand the stakes of this moment, we need to step back. Immigration law in the United States is unforgiving. History has shown us countless stories of individuals denied entry, barred at airports, or deported because of confessions far less dramatic than Harry's. Ordinary people, students, workers, parents, have been rejected for admitting to even minor experimentation with drugs decades in past. No leniency, no second chances. Yet, here we have a man who not only admitted to using substances like cocaine and marijuana, but published those confessions in a memoir sold across the world. Millions read it. The U.S. government surely did too. So why was he allowed in? Was it love, influence, or diplomacy that tipped the scales? Or perhaps something more strategic? Because make no mistake, Prince Harry is not just a private citizen in America. He is a global figure, a magnet for cameras, a living link to one of the most famous families in the world. His presence on U.S. soil is not only personal, it is political. And here's where things become more dangerous for him. When politics mixes with personal lives, secrets become weapons. Already, whispers swirl through Washington's corridors. If Trump were to reclaim power, would Harry's visa become a pawn in a bigger game? Could a politician use the prince's vulnerability to send a message, to score points, or to reshape narratives about immigration fairness? Imagine the headlines. No exceptions. Even a prince isn't above the law. It would be explosive, dramatic, and politically useful. But there's another possibility, far subtler, far more unsettling. What if Harry's files don't just contain technical answers about his drug history, but correspondence between governments? What if Britain and the United States exchange words, quietly negotiating his entry, smoothing the path, cutting corners? Documents like that wouldn't just embarrass Harry. They could expose cracks in the diplomatic facade, revealing how rules bend when names are heavy enough. And this brings us to the heart of the drama. For centuries, royalty was shielded by secrecy. What happened behind palace doors stayed there. But Harry broke that code. He chose transparency, or at least the illusion of it. In despair, he ripped open the veil, confessing struggles, painting vivid pictures of his own weaknesses. The irony is staggering. By sharing too much, by daring to tell the world about his past, he may have set in motion the very legal storm now threatening to unseat his American dream. His truth became his trap. Think of it. A man who once flew Apache helicopters in Afghanistan, who walked behind his mother's coffin as the world wept, who challenged the monarchy itself, now caught in something as bureaucratic and cold as an immigration lawsuit. The contrast is haunting, and it makes us wonder, what does this reveal about power in our world today? Because while the headlines focus on Harry, the deeper story may be about us, ordinary citizens, subject to rules that appear immovable, while those with wealth and fame seem to dance around them. The Heritage Foundation claims to be fighting for transparency, but are they truly after truth? Or is this a political theater designed to embarrass Harry, Meghan, and by extension, the progressive causes they often represent? The courtroom in Washington will not just be a place of legal filings. It will be a stage. On one side, lawyers demanding to unseal the files. On the other, government officials guarding them with silence. Somewhere in the middle, the shadow of a prince whose choices, personal, political, even recreational, now echo louder than ever before. And the stakes? They are enormous. If it's revealed that Harry lied, deportation becomes more than just a theoretical threat. If it's revealed that special treatment was granted, the scandal could ignite fury across America, where fairness in immigration is already a lightning rod issue. Imagine the outcry. Thousands denied visas every year, while a prince walks through the cracks. The backlash could shake not just Harry, but Meghan, their children, and the fragile image of a couple trying to redefine what it means to live outside the crown shadow. But let's not forget, this is Harry we are talking about, a man who has lived his entire life in controversy, who has survived the tabloids, the relentless paparazzi, the family feuds, and the cold silence of the institution he walked away from. He is no stranger to battles. The question is, can he win this one? As speculation grows, one haunting scenario lingers. The image of Harry, standing before cameras, not as a free man, but as someone forced to leave. Airports, headlines, Meghan at his side, their California home abandoned, their American dream cut short. It sounds unthinkable, but history is filled with unthinkable moments that became reality. And yet, there's another ending still possible. Perhaps the documents, once revealed, show nothing scandalous at all. Perhaps the case fizzles, the noise dies, and Harry continues his life under the California sun. If that happens, the real question may not be about Harry's guilt or innocence, but about why this battle was fought in the first place. Was it truly about the law, or about the relentless hunger to see a royal fall? This is where the story takes on an almost mythic quality, because Harry's journey has always been one of exile, from the boy lost in the shadow of his mother's death, to the soldier who fled into combat zones to find meaning, to the husband who crossed oceans to protect his family. His life has been a series of escapes, and now his greatest escape may be tested once more. The documents sit waiting. Judges prepare. Lawyers sharpen their words. Politicians watch. And Harry? Perhaps he sits in Montecito, watching the waves crash against the shore, knowing that no matter how far he runs from the crown, from the tabloids, from his own past, his story will always be pulled back into the public's gaze. So, what happens when those 1,000 files are finally unsealed? Will they reveal a lie, a cover-up, or simply the painful truth that power bends the rules? One thing is certain, this story is not finished. And when the gavel falls in Washington, when the decision is made on what the world gets to see, it will not just be Prince Harry's future hanging in the balance. It will be a test of transparency, of fairness, and of whether even the most famous man can be held accountable under the weight of the law. So I leave you with this question. Is Prince Harry a victim of political theater, unfairly targeted because of who he is? Or is he a man who believed rules didn't apply to him and is now facing the inevitable consequences? The answer lies somewhere inside those 1,000 documents. And until they are revealed, the world will keep watching, waiting for the truth to finally break through the silence. And when it does, will it set him free or bring him crashing down?